Today's special NBA episode of the BS Podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek, our presenting sponsor, our favorite app for buying and selling tickets for sports and music. Go to SeatGeek.com/BS to start using SeatGeek. That includes Boston Transplants looking for tickets for the Celtics West Coast trip later this month. Bob, you're fired up for that one. Celts on the road.
Super fired
Going for
up.
a 2-seed. Don't forget to download the free SeatGeek app. Enter promo code BS. They'll send you $20 once you've made your first purchase. Today's episode is also brought to you by Stamps.com. Instead of relying on the post office, you can buy and print official U.S. postage using your own computer and printer. This is what James Harden used when he mailed in the first month of the season. Use Stamps.com. Sign up for Stamps.com right now and use the promo code BS. You get a 4-week trial plus a $110 bonus offer that includes postage and a digital scale. Go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone on the top of the homepage, and type in BS. It's NBA time. Let's go.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tupac.
Yeah, right.
I know he was huge in the Canada, Vancouver area. Big hip hop scene there.
Yeah, I was in Montreal when there was a big Tupac scene. People love Tupac.
Well, there was a Montreal Tupac scene.
Yeah, you'd have French Canadians who didn't speak any French but knew or any English but knew all the lyrics to Tupac.
That's Bob Voulgaris, esteemed NBA gambler, one of the best NBA Twitter followers on at haralabob.com, HARALABOB. He's been feisty this year. There's been a lot of bad coaching drives you crazy, and there's been an inordinate amount of it. We've already lost 5 coaches, and it feels like we could have lost 5 more. Just recently, Derek Fisher, we lost him, although I'm not sure that was for basketball reasons. I think there might be more to that story that might come out, but it's not like that was ever really a well-coached team. George Karl is, by the time this post might get fired, I don't know. He might come back. Why can't we find good NBA coaches? What's wrong? What are we doing wrong?
It's hard to be a good NBA coach, I would say, first of all. And then the other part of it is, I think it's
your answer? It's hard to be an NBA coach?
I just don't think
it can't be that hard.
No, it's hard for sure. It's hard when you have players who are making 3, 4, 5 times as much money as you do.
That
who
part's
are,
hard.
by and large, taller than you. Like, imagine... That's why they talk to him when the players are sitting down at the bench, the coach,
right?
Because it's just hard to get respect when you're looking and you're staring up at someone.
That's what killed Lawrence Frank. I think he might have been a good coach if he was like 7 inches taller. He'd still be in the league. Yeah.
He can't tell everyone to sit down so you can talk to him. Have a seat. Let me say something while you're standing and they're sitting down. I think it's tough. That, and then I just think it's a job where there seems to be a lot of retreads, and then the ones that are new to the game. Or new to the NBA, like Blatt, there's some adjustment there, and then it's
you were bullish on Blatt though when they hired him, right? You thought he was going to be a little innovative.
Well, I think the one part about coaching that maybe I underestimate, probably because just my personality, but like the biggest part about coaching is, aside from the X's and O's, which is probably even bigger than the X's and O's, is just being likable. And I think that was the problem he had. Nobody liked him. None of his players. Some of them, like J.R. Smith, liked him. He talked about how he really respected him. But I think there was like a disconnect between him and the players. And I think that's the part that is the most difficult, is just being a likable person that people want to follow.
I've written about this so many times over the years. I don't know if I've ever written a giant column about it, but I feel like it's been spread over 20 years worth. And for me, it starts with Chris Ford. Were you betting on basketball when Chris Ford was a
Celtics coach?
He used to yell at, we had all this young team, right? Promising. D. Brown before he hurt his knee. Brian Shaw, who ended up having a good career. Rick Fox.
What year was that?
This was, I'm talking 92, 93
Yeah, like
range.
1 year
91,
before.
92, 93.
Yeah.
He had all these young guys. You just yell at them all the time.
Yeah.
And you could see it starting to wear on him. And D. Brown's dribbling up the ball and telling him to shut up. And I'm like, I'm still in college. This doesn't feel right. Like, you could see he wasn't resonating with them. Then it goes to Patino in the late 90s. Comes in, huge contract, young team. And he's a drill sergeant. And I do think fundamentally the players have to want to win for the coach. And they have to feel like it's their team. And that when the coach positions it as, I'm the savior, here I am, thank God for me. You're all expendable. You're all pawns in my big chess game. That doesn't work. Luke Walton, who, you need to get that.
No, I just
turn
need to
your
turn
phone
it
off.
off. Well, I thought no one calls me. That's the other thing. So it's like
maybe another coach got fired.
Probably.
So like Luke Walton comes in, just a good guy, mellow, wins respect for his team. You need to get that.
I'm trying to turn it off.
All right.
I apologize.
Luke Walton, nice guy, steers the ship. Hey, Steph, here's the ball. Draymond, you do your thing. I'm not going to get in your way. And it worked. They were amazing. Maybe coaches should just be substitute teachers that just make sure everybody plays the right amount of minutes.
Yeah, it's tough when you have a team of knuckleheads to just kind of be like, okay, guys, roll out the ball
Like
and let them go. Yeah,
yeah.
When you do that and you have a team that gives up like a 1.2 points a possession on D. So there is a fine line between being a micromanager and overbearing and just like completely laissez-faire and letting them do whatever they want. I think
being like the gardener who showed up and took control of the team.
Yeah. And I think that's like one of the things that Phil Jackson had. I mean, he wasn't, now it's obvious that he's not a huge analytics guy. I mean, he's not terrible, but he doesn't understand a lot of things about the game. The year they lost to the Celtics in the finals, they welcomed open 3-point shots from the corner because they thought it would lead to Lamar Odom fast breaks the other way. Mm-hmm. Little did they know those shots went in at like a 1.5 rate per shot per possession. So, but he was able to manage the egos and kind of, he was famous for never calling a timeout, letting the team work it out. Big runs, never getting up and calling a timeout.
Right.
And then you have the opposite of that, which you have coaches who are just like, want to control every little aspect of the game. And I think there's a fine line between
What's weird is we both like Carlisle, but he is kind of micromanager and guys looking over the bench all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting because he was the worst ever. I mean, the year he played, the year the Pacers and the Pistons played in the Eastern Conference Finals, the totals I think were in the 130s.
It was incredible. What was the famous Tayshaun Prince block?
On Reggie,
which is one of the best players of this century, but that game was like 65-64 or something.
Yeah, I think every game went below the total, and the totals were like in the 140s. It was a joke.
Yeah.
And the year they won the championship, the year Dallas won the championship with Carlisle as their coach, he kind of let Jason Kidd call all the plays, and didn't call any plays for the most part. And now they're back to where he calls all the plays. I don't know if that's a testament to him having a bunch of losing years, or the fact that he doesn't trust his point guards, or he's constantly having roster upheaval where he's got a new point guard. When you have a new point guard every year, it's tough to just say, okay, buddy, you can call all the plays. I think that's part of it. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of, I mean, he's at half court, both arms out, calling a play every time down. It's kind of remarkable.
Practice is, I heard a great Phil Jackson story once about this coach who knew Phil, who had been doing well with his team. But then they hit a little rough patch, and he just felt like he was losing them a tiny bit, or they were just kind of on cruise control. He's like, what do I do? He calls Phil. What do I do? And he's like, next practice, don't call any fouls. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, just don't call any fouls. Let them beat the shit out of each other. He's like, all right. Call 20 minutes in. Guys are starting to get mad. They're getting competitive. Guys have to be separated. They had this great practice. Everything's fine. But I think that's like the little stuff that he used to do that you can't measure.
He would have his team seated, legs crossed in a circle, beating drums,
right?
Smoking. It was just
give them the weird Christmas books to make them think about stuff.
Yeah, he would give give some players. I remember reading. Kobe Bryant never read any of the books. He gave him like a bunch of different books. I can't remember some of them were, I think, kind of applicable to Kobe.
I think one of them was kind of insulting.
One of them.
I remember there was one book he gave to Kobe Bryant. I'm like, wow.
Right.
It was like a book about, I don't remember, but it was something that made me think.
There was like a cultural
about a serial killer or something. It was like, what are you trying to say?
He gave him a cultural book. I forget. It escapes me now, but it was like a book about how hard it was for like a black kid growing up in a white neighborhood, something like that. He gave him, and I don't think Kobe read that one either. But this was like when Kobe was younger.
I remember people always said about Popovich, and I actually tried to remember this when like we were starting Grantland and all this stuff, but he was always like, somebody asked him like, what's the key to your success as a coach, like over the long haul? And he's like, treat everyone the same, have the same relationship with the best player on my team as I do with the 15th best player, which probably no way that's true, but at least I guess the point is he's trying to connect with every guy he has. They're not just these dudes at the end of the bench.
Yeah. And
the way he uses the season and his roster, it's really smart. I think that's been the most innovative thing, other than what the Warriors have done with small ball and defensively. Just the way Pop has rested guys has really kind of revolutionized the league. You see the minutes now. Nobody's over 38 minutes a game. Guys just rest just to save their bodies. And
I think
You
2
know,
years
it's
ago,
smart.
2 years ago, we did a podcast
Yeah.
and we talked exactly about this, about how the Spurs were resting players, how they were.
But now they've taken it to another level. Now they're just like, Duncan, you're going to take this week off.
They did that 2 years ago. The
To
year they
this
went
level?
to the yeah.
Do you remember them using like 13, 14, 15 guys like this though?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like Jonathan Simmons out of nowhere, all of a sudden he's playing?
They were players that you had heard of, so it seemed a little bit different than like they didn't find like Boban Marjanovic from like a different planet and brought him here to play.
Their box score is like a surprise. You just don't know what to expect when you look at the box score if you didn't see the game. It's
Definitely
like, oh, sure, Boban has
definitely
20
a
minutes.
tough team to predict minutes for sure.
But it seems like more and more teams are borrowing that.
The teams are borrowing it, and I think some teams are overdoing it in some ways. I mean, I always was on Tibbs for playing his players too many minutes, and I think there's a fine line between that and then also just like never establishing any type of rotation or establishing any type of flow to a game. Like I think that's one of the things that Bud does for Atlanta that maybe serves them well come playoff time. I'm not sure. But it feels like when I watch their games, nobody ever really gets into a flow of the game because they're constantly, every whistle, someone else is coming in for someone else. And I feel like that may be hampering just the in-game flow of like players getting accustomed to playing with the same players and running the same stuff. Especially when you run a very elaborate offense like they run. Like they get to half court faster than the other team with the ball on offense.
Yeah.
But then their plays take a long time to develop because they're constantly passing and moving and they're waiting for, like, they're passing up good shots for better shots. And I feel like when you're taking up Horford and bringing in Splitter, then Splitter comes out and in comes Muscala, then Muscala comes out and in comes Millsap. Now Millsap comes out and Horford comes in. It's just like you're watching the game, and if you look at the play-by-play log and you're just like, wait, who's playing what position with whom and when? And I could see how that would be tough.
It's funny that Jerry Sloan plays Stockton the exact same way every game, forever. Mm-hmm. Stockton plays forever. He plays more minutes and seasons at point guard than anybody in the history of that position. He's still good when he's like 40, 41. He's still, what was it, 99, 2000, 2001? They're still in the playoffs. Every time he took him out at the same point of the first and third quarter.
Yeah.
And he rested him for 5-6 minutes at the end of the first quarter, all coming through the second quarter, then bring him back. It's weird that nobody emulates this.
Some guys do, like the with Dirk, for instance, the Mavs take him out at the 6-minute mark, the first 6-minute whistle.
You're right. They do that pretty consistently.
And then you have
Celtics did that with KG. Doc used to do that. He would take him out.
It's weird that he did it.
6-minute timeout.
But he doesn't do anything like, he doesn't stagger it. Like he plays full 5-man bench units with the Clippers, which is just mind-boggling.
Doc's, I think, I don't know what happened to Doc.
But the guy who kind of does that now still, what you talked about is Van Gundy.
Yep.
I mean, he's playing the same 9 guys, the same amount of minutes every game. The only time it varies a little bit is with Drummond. If Drummond's getting hacked and he doesn't want him to play, then he'll play Baines more than Drummond. But other than that, that Reggie Jackson's going to play X amount of minutes. KCP's going to play X. It's pretty consistent. He's even to the point where if they're down like 18, he's still got his players in their regular minutes at the end of the games. It's kind of interesting.
Our hero, the next American president, Brad Stevens. It took him almost 2.5 years to figure out that he just needed to settle on 9 or 10 guys. And he was always mixing and matching and guys shuttling in and out. And it was my one nitpick with him because we just know the NBA is, you need to know who your 9 are. They need to know who the 9 are. And then everybody else, if they know they're not going to play, you got to be ready. You got to be like David Lee and the Warriors last year.
But if you look at that team though, and you see, like, it's one thing if you have like a dominant 5 starters. Right. These are your guys. If you look at that team, they have like Bradley, Smart, Thomas,
3 All-Stars.
Evan Turner. But they have like 4 guys who all play like the same positions in some ways.
But they had to stop like the David Lee for 8 minutes.
Exactly.
The James Young for 6 minutes. Like that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Just pick your dudes. And I don't know. I think like Van Gundy to me, my favorite coaches to watch this year, Van Gundy and Stevens are definitely near the top. And a lot of it is just because now they've everyone knows their roles. People need to know like, all right, crunch time. Here we go. Who's our 5? And even with that, the Celtics took forever. Now they finally realized, like, we just got to play the 3 guards together.
It's weird because if you look at their record this year and you looked at pre-David Lee getting minutes.
Yeah.
David Lee getting minutes.
Right.
Post-David Lee getting minutes. It's a graph. It's like a perfect graph of winning.
I feel bad.
We're losing. And then, he's gone
such
again.
A good guy.
Probably, yeah. And it's not even that he's unplayable anywhere, but he's definitely unplayable on that team. They just don't have a role for him.
That's been, so my theory on this, last year when these teams were going small and the Celtics could take teams by surprise because you had so many teams that were kind of built for that old school style, right? And that's Atlanta does this whole season where they have these lineups that just not a lot of teams could match up with correctly. Now this year, you have all these teams now that have put some thought into being ready for those kind of lineups. And I think it took a while for the Celts they're not a take you by surprise anymore, you know? And now their take by surprise lineup is the 3 guards at the same time with Crowder.
Right.
Which they're just like, go to the rim. We'll try to stop you, but on the other side, we're just going to attack you and try to outscore you.
Yeah, they're a fun team to watch. I like watching them probably more than any other Eastern Conference team.
Yeah, there's some thought. What's great about Stevens, I mean, he's been unbelievable, but the plays he draws up when like we need a basket, I really feel like it's like this. I can't wait to see what he does. I don't remember a lot of coaches who've made me feel that way. Like
you don't remember Frank Vogel calling those Monte Ellis
Oh,
for long 3-pointers and tie games? You don't remember those plays?
Did you watch the one where it was a play, but Miles Turner, who I actually like, he screwed up. He didn't come over, and Monte Ellis had to take a terrible shot, and then everybody's yelling at Miles Turner. I'm like, Monte Ellis would have taken that terrible shot
Regardless,
anyway.
Yeah, he would have.
Didn't matter what Miles Turner did.
Yeah, he would have shook him off.
Yeah, that's got to be. Who are the guys that just take years off your life if you're a fan of that team? Monte Ellis, Rudy Gay.
A fan of like any team, you mean?
They're just guys who are good enough that casual fans think they're good, but if you're watching them night in, night out, if you love the team, they
Rudy
drive
Gay
you nuts.
is for sure
He's got to be the MVP of that
he's
team.
by far, because he has all the skills to be like an all-star,
Right.
Hall of Famer,
Perfect small
everything,
ball 4, the textbook.
everything.
Yeah.
But he just looks like he's bored.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that fire inside him. I mean,
Do you worry that Wiggins might be like that?
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a sniff of that with Wiggins. I like Wiggins a lot, but I worry about him sometimes.
I think and Rudy Gay's like, by all accounts, like a good human being too.
Yeah.
But he's just, I don't know. There's just, I think the difference, it's really tough without being able to have like a lot of exposure to hearing the person speak and knowing like, okay, is this guy intelligent or is he not intelligent? By all accounts, it seems like Rudy Gay is smart. Like, I don't think he's like a dummy by any stretch. And I think the same thing about Andrew Wiggins. So it's tough, but I don't know if it's that, or I mean, also look at Andrew Wiggins just hasn't had a coach. He had Flip Saunders, who was a good coach. He had him for a while, but now he has Sam Mitchell, who
is a top 3 worst coach.
Has to be a detriment to developing
Unbelievably
talent.
bad at coaching.
Yeah. So I think that makes it very.
By the way, we knew this. Anyone who followed basketball this century knew that Sam Mitchell was really bad at coaching.
I got about 300 notifications in a week when Sam Mitchell became the interim coach from guys from Toronto being like, "Oh my God, no!
How is this happening?
Don't you remember the late game? We would always, every close game we would lose. Don't you remember?" And I was like, "No, I don't. First of all, I don't know why you say we. I'm not part of the team."
I think that's why the league made the Knicks hire Rambis as an interim coach, because they just felt bad for Sam Mitchell. He needed somebody to play checkers with. When is Knicks Timberwolves?
It's like shoots and ladders.
Will you find out when Knicks Timberwolves is? Because that's the checkers match of the year. That's going to be unbelievable.
I don't even know if checkers is like, what's that game that you just push it, Bob, where you just push the thing in the dice?
The traffic.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking up Rambis. I tweeted this.
Yeah, February 20th.
Oh, February 20th.
Wow, coming up right after the All-Star break.
Oh my God, that's going to be appointment viewing.
That'll be
Something
interesting.
terrible will happen at the end of that game. Yeah, I looked it up because I had a hazy memory of this being true, but then I after 5-6 years, I just couldn't believe that it was true, but it was true. Kevin Love's second season, the Timberwolves won 15 games. He played Ryan Gomes. Kurt Rambis played Ryan Gomes more minutes per game than Kevin Love.
Yeah.
It's got to be the coaching achievement of the century. It's not like they were a good team. They're a 15-win team. Yeah. He's got Kevin Love.
He put together successive sub 20-win seasons.
Yeah, he's one of the worst coaches of all time. What's really funny is I did TV with him, and I felt bad because I had made fun of him a couple times in comms. Such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Whole time I felt bad. He's actually was good on TV. I think that's what he should do. I don't think he should be coaching. I can't imagine.
It could even be like, maybe, I don't know. He was trying to force the triangle down the Timberwolves' throats back then as well. They played the triangle, which is amazing. that
It's always amazing when
you're going to play the triangle with a young team.
Yeah, with
Think
a young
about that
team.
for a second.
A young team and like Johnny Flynn, who's everything you would never want in your triangle point guard.
Sure.
Just like this young short guy who just wants to run. I hate systems. Systems to me are the dumbest thing you can do in basketball. Like, why have a system when you don't know who your players are? Patino used to do that. It's like, hey, here's my system.
Well, Patino did the famous, there was the strike, the lockout that year. The players came back out of shape and he had guys pressing. And he was full court pressing.
I was going to those games.
And the players were dying. I mean, they were fouling.
Was 20 pounds heavy.
Yeah. And I was just like, there might be, okay, I know you're a press coach, which by the way, it's not college. Press isn't really going to work in the NBA anyways.
Yeah.
But if it's going to work, it's certainly not going to work when your guys are out of shape.
With that said, I went to a lot of those games, and I do think there's a scenario where the press can work in the NBA. I think you'd have to train your 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12
you need a
guys
super
to do
deep
it.
team.
Yeah. If you,
and
like
you need guys. The Celtics could do it right now.
They could have done it.
But, I mean, well, the Celtics, Doc Rivers did it the year they were tanking. The year before they got KG,
Right.
He did
It was his way to
They
tank.
would be like in the penalty with 7 minutes left, and they'd be like, all right, let's go full court press.
I hope you were making money on those last 2 months.
Them and Golden State, the year Golden State tanked with
Incredible.
Were just, I mean, the problem is the lines were not realistic. The lines just kept getting higher and higher, and so your model would be like, okay, the model doesn't know that these teams are actively trying to lose.
Right.
So you're trying to figure out exactly where the motivation is there.
I remember Doc was playing Alan Ray with Gerald Green and Rondo and like one other guard. It was like the 4-guard lineup. Just throwing it out there.
Mark Jackson played, I want to say 6 players an entire game or 5 players an entire game.
Yeah. Well, the
With
worst
no
ever
subs.
was Madsen.
That was, with the
Madsen
3-pointers.
taking That actually, like, they were willfully trying to lose the game.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Who was
I can't
the coach
remember what
then?
the stakes were. It was post flip. It was somebody. It was whoever
Whitman?
was after flip. Hold on. I want to talk about Slender Tone. You know what Slender Tone is?
No. I could use it though.
I bought Slender Tone before they actually decided they wanted to sponsor the podcast, which I was stunned by because I got it on Amazon. I saw an infomercial and I was like, I need that. I hate doing sit-ups. I want my abs to look better. So you can get your help with your ab workouts. You try Slender Tone Connect Abs. It's a smart fitness device that you put around your waist and it actively tones and tightens your abs, and it works. Their toning belt is controlled via an app that creates your personal training plan, tracks your workouts, sends customized tips to keep you motivated. They use this technology. You feel like the pulsations and your stomach starts contracting, like you feel it. It's like doing sit-ups, but you don't actually have to do sit-ups. They track your workouts. They send tips, all this good stuff. So my favorite thing is you can watch TV as you're doing it, because I like any workout where I get to watch basketball at the same time. So this will be good for you. Thanks to Slender Tone's money back guarantee, you can join the 100% of users who reported firmer, more toned abs in just weeks. I'm not there yet. I've only been using it for like 2 weeks. Visit slendertone.com today. Receive 20% off using offer code BS at checkout. Back to the NBA. Can the Warriors go 74-8?
They have a pretty tough schedule at the end, but I think they want to. I feel like they want that not more than a championship, but I feel like they would rather have that first and then worry about a championship later, which is admirable because it's something that no other team could do and they could be thought of as the greatest team ever. So
right now they're 46-4.
I don't see
so
why
they'd
not.
have to go 28-4 the rest of the way, which seems conceivable if they were healthy.
Seems like a piece of cake.
Yeah, like we were saying in the car, it's shocking when
They
these
lose.
games are even close.
Yeah.
If it's a 3-point game, I'm like, what? Like the Phillies hanging with the goal. I almost had a heart attack during that game.
That game was
Phillies hanging with Golden State. What's happening?
Yeah, that game was interesting. I remember watching that game going, what is going on?
Yeah, Ish Smith, who New Orleans had no use for.
How could you use him? You got
How can you use him with all your
could never
great
use-
point
why-
guards?
you don't.
New
I mean,
Orleans?
it's not like they want to play an up-tempo style.
Yeah, there's no way he'll work with Anthony Davis, who
No.
loves running and catching alley-oops.
He's turned
Yeah.
Nerlens Noel into a serviceable offensive superstar.
Don't
and
play him.
Don't,
It would be
don't need him.
stupid.
You would watch those games, and I would watch the Pelicans games, and they would start Tyreek at the point, or even when they got Norris Cole, they played Norris Cole, but they would start these terrible lineups, and then you would just be sitting there waiting for Ish Smith to come in, knowing they're going to put up 30 points in that quarter that Ish Smith played.
Yeah.
And you have like a go coach, supposedly, 7 seconds or less disciple, Alvin
Almost
Gentry.
made the finals.
I
was in on the Gentry hiring. That Suns team
was
within that Kobe airball, Artest layup. If they win that game
and
in
they
OT.
played, but I went back and watched that series again because I had a big bet on Phoenix to win the series that year.
And you should have won it.
I mean, they weren't there. I think I was getting some ridiculous price on it. They were big underdogs.
I love them. I thought they were going to win the series.
You know what they did? They went to zone, and it worked because it surprised the Lakers. So they played zone for 2. So they lost the first 2 games, won the next 3 or 2. Won the next 2,
and then the game
and
5 was the
Artest
Kobe airball Artest layup, which was actually a great play.
So the 2 games they played zone, it took the Lakers by surprise. Then they went to it the 3rd zone game, and the Lakers kind of figured it out. But at that point, they should have just went back to playing. And he called it, we're going to stick with our girly zone. That's what he would say. And it was just, that was the big mistake. That team was entirely Steve Nash. He was the coach of that team.
Great season.
And that's where I think coaching is overrated, where it doesn't matter who your coach is. If you have someone who's going to play 35, 40 minutes a game, has the ball in his hand the entire time, does it really matter who your head coach is? But you see what happens when these coaches lose guys like Steve Nash.
Right.
And now they're forced to actually coach. And they can't tell the difference between Ish Smith and Norris Cole.
But that's, so you take D'Antoni, right? And he could have gone to the Knicks or the Bulls that year after he left the Suns. And he picked the Knicks because they offered him more money.
Admirable.
Goes to the Bulls. He has Derrick Rose back when Derrick Rose was actually Derrick Rose playing that style. I'm not positive it would have worked.
I don't think it would have worked. I think he was
would have been more interesting than going to the Knicks, though.
But I mean, he's another coach that I feel like is a good coach, was kind of revolutionized basketball with his philosophy of
So who would you match him up with?
You need Steve Nash. You need you need John Stockton.
But what guy right now could do that? Like
nobody. Stephen Curry. That would be those coaches are as good as their
point guard who could play up tempo like that.
It's not just up tempo.
No, I know.
Nash was the team's Nash was a point guard on, had the best offensive rating 7 years in a row.
Yeah.
So all of this talk about D'Antoni revolutionized basketball, that's great. But Nash was doing it with Don Nelson a few years before in Dallas.
Yeah.
They were doing the same thing, but it didn't get quite the publicity because they didn't win the MVP award. So I'm not trying to disparage D'Antoni. It's just more a testament to how great Steve Nash was as a point guard.
Right.
So right now, who do you have?
With that said, I think, I look at somebody like Kyrie, and that's not somebody who could work with D'Antoni because he's too slow.
He's
the
fast,
slowest
but he goes
fast
left
guy
to right.
ever. Yeah.
He's always going left to right and backwards. It's like he's playing Xbox and his controller won't go forward. He can only go backwards, forward, side to side.
I think I've changed my opinion on him 27 times already in 5 years. Last year, after he had that unbelievable game on the beginning of March, where what did he have, 60 or 50 or whatever he had
against the Spurs?
Yeah, this guy's amazing. Oh my gosh,
he is an amazing offensive basketball player, but he's not compatible. He needs the ball all the time. He'd be like a good point guard that just had the ball. You're not going to run with him. He's just not going to play up tempo all game. His process is too slow.
Right. My fear is he's this generation's Marbury. Now, before you say, "Oh, that's terrible," Marbury was really good. I think he's better than Marbury. I think he's more talented. But Marbury was a guy that the whole team had to be built around him. He had to decide everything.
But he's not like,
he had to move at his pace.
I don't remember the name of the social media thing that Marbury was doing that one year, which was off the chains crazy. Do you remember this?
No, I'm
what was that called?
When he was eating Vaseline? No, Marbury.
But what was the name of that? I'm sorry, but what was the name of the it was like a version of Snapchat, but different.
Yeah.
He was streaming his life all the time.
Yeah. No, he lost his mind.
I don't see Kyrie being that. I feel that was a big part of the way Marbury played, though. You can't separate someone's mental problems from their basketball.
I remember going to the Knicks traded for Marbury and went to a playoff game with him that year, and the Knicks fans were in on Marbury. This was like hometown kid, New York City tradition point guards.
Yeah.
And they were so into him and excited. And he still was somebody who could get 20 to 28 every game with 10 assists, but
I sat beside Stephen Marbury on a Southwest flight from Las
Didn't
Vegas
go well?
to Burbank. He was actually really nice.
Yeah.
But it was funny because it was during Summer League. And this was like the year after the Celtics won the championship that year, 2009.
Yeah.
And I met with
he had minutes for us that year in the 2009 playoffs.
And I met with the team that year for like an interview. So I had my computer and all my models and everything ready to go. And I sit down, and Stephon Marbury and his handler sat down. Steph sat in the middle seat and his handler sat in the aisle seat. I was in the window. So I was like, let me just open up my computer and start talking basketball with this guy. And so I started talking basketball with him and running queries, like what was my rating for this? And what do you got me in your system? And it was actually pretty interesting. It was kind of entertaining. But then he told me that he wanted to develop some app that would revolutionize communications where you could contact anyone at any time. And I was like, you mean like a telephone? And he was like, but different. And he was going to go to China and make it happen. And I was like, wow, this guy's out of his mind.
Like a telephone, but different.
Yeah.
No, I want to talk to people in the afterlife.
Yeah, it's different.
But I really like Kyrie. I wonder if he's somebody that can just have the ball and then not have the ball and then have the ball and then not have the ball. And I think he might just need to have the ball.
Yeah.
Which is why, like Marbury, I still feel like the first 6 years of his career, it could have worked with a certain team. I don't know what that team was. He never should have left KG. The KG Marbury was perfect. And then you add a couple people and it could have worked. Kyrie's
still young though too.
He's young. He's like 22, 23. I just hate watching the last 4 minutes of them. I hate the LeBron one-on-one. I just like watching how they wasted love drive me nuts.
Look who his coaches have been. He had Blatt for a year, which is fine. Before that, he had Mike Brown and Byron Scott.
That's a disaster.
So that's like you imagine only playing 11 games in college and then going to the NBA and having Byron Scott and Mike Brown,
which is why
mold you.
He's a top 10 untradeable guy.
Yeah. You never know what would happen if he went to a decent coach who actually taught
and
him
he's
the
still
point
like
guard
23.
position. He's so young. Yeah.
I don't think they'll have the balls to trade him unless something bad happens this year. And I think they would trade Love before they
don't have
Kyrie.
A backup point guard though. Who are they going to roll with? Dellavedova?
Oh, I think they'd have to get one back.
Yeah.
I don't know what type of point guard, but it would seem like
Rondo.
Rondo.
That would be a fun trade. Watching Rondo and LeBron.
It is funny though. Everybody judges these guys by their offensive stats. It's like Rondo's back, 11 assists a game, and meanwhile they're getting just torched defensively night after night after night. Teams are putting up 120, 128.
They had successive games where they gave up 1.20 points per possession in a row,
which is like almost impossible.
Yeah. It's hard to do successively,
like the
against
Sixers,
against terrible teams too. Not
the
even great
Sixers
teams.
were trying to do it and couldn't pull it off.
They couldn't.
They were like, let's get to 1.2.
Teams were missing shots every now and then.
Yeah,
the shots got to go in.
The Kings are so bad defensively that the Warriors Kings games, and I think there's been two, but I always feel like that's the game where the 160 points and the 30 made threes.
Someone
crazy,
could score 80 points.
Yeah. Curry and Clay combines getting to 120. Like some sort of freaky statistical accident will happen against the Kings.
It's funny because they played the Celtics the other day, and I was flying, so I missed the game. And then
46 in the first quarter.
Right. So I missed the game, and then I watched. The first thing I did is I listened to Rondo's post-game comments and the coach's post-game comments, and they're like, what about this? You give up this many points. And they were like, we just turned the ball over too much, gave away too many easy points.
Oh, that's definitely it.
Well, I looked at it and they only gave up 11 points off of live turnovers.
Right.
So what about the other 120? What happened? So it's like there's not even any realization as to why they suck. Because, people suck and they can be like honest about it. Like, oh, I suck. I'm doing this wrong. Like we're just over switching for no reason. No one's picking up their man. We're taking 3-point shots from our centers taking 3-point shots with his hand in the air, watching the follow through. And 4 guys are like below the free throw line. Right. So when the ball ricochets out, it's a 4-on-1 the other way. We should maybe stop that. But no, we got to stop turning the ball over. Well, he actually didn't give up that many points off of turnover. So it's not that.
He stopped playing defense around 2011. And then he would turn it back on for playoffs, big games, national TV. But for the most part,
it's hard.
Guys would just go by him.
Yeah.
It's tough. And that's why I really like this Celtics team. And I know there's no way we could get David Lee and Sullinger and a Brooklyn pick for Kevin Love. But if you just put Kevin Love in that Sullinger spot on this Celtics team,
it'd be a big difference.
It would be unbelievable.
Sullinger bangs a bit more, though. I don't know that Kevin Love could defend and rebound.
That shot at the top of the key is wide open for whoever our 5 is.
Yeah.
And that's his shot. And that's one of the reasons it was so frustrating to watch him on Cleveland, because they're throwing him in the corner. It's like, he's great at the top of the key. That's where he put up his points in Minnesota. But the Celtics are one player away from being just a crazy offensive team. because of the way they attack and the slash and kick, and they have all the right pieces for the most part, except for that stretch five. That's why Olynyk, whose stats have been pretty good this year and who's been effective and is a better player than I thought he was, but he's effective because that shot's always open. Stevens he knows what he's doing. We just don't have the right players yet.
It's tough to find that one piece that can do that.
You like Kevin Love, right? Just not defensively.
I like him for sure. I mean, it's funny because I thought Kevin Love was overrated for a long time. And then I was like, no, he's very, very good. I remember we did a show together and I talked about how great he was. And now I'm kind of back to like, maybe I was right originally and maybe I shouldn't have listened. But I think he's obviously a very skilled offensive player. I do wonder what his max, if he's like a stat guy or if he's like a guy that can actually help a really good team
not
win.
A great team guy.
Yeah, I wonder about that. But he hasn't had a proper fit yet in Cleveland that could really... They could do some things like getting him the ball at the elbow is great. They're trying to do that more. Having like running some more pick and rolls with him would be good. I think with LeBron as the ball handler, I think that would be kind of difficult.
It's the play I'm always afraid of when the Celtics play them.
You know, my play
please don't run a high screen with LeBron and Kevin Love.
And there's like a play that they could run. I don't think they run it that often because I think it takes a lot of toll on LeBron. But just setting the screen like really, really far away.
Yeah.
And having him come with a full head of steam and just go to the basket. That's like their go-to play when they need a basket and they're losing. Not in the last play of the game,
foul every time.
But like in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game, he'll just like barrel in, and it's either a layup or a foul every time, like you said. And they don't really run that too much. But I feel like if Kevin Love's the one setting the screen and then he could pop out, that could be an interesting play for them.
Bizarre that they don't run that. And you can run it with Kyrie too.
I think it's just too tough. I think it's too taxing to have them handle the ball that much. I think it fatigues them too much. He gets banged a lot.
Remember there was like a 2-year stretch where we always wondered why Durant and Westbrook just wasn't the screen roll like every time. Why they didn't do that? Why didn't Brooks see this? And now actually they run that.
It's tough to stop.
And every time they run it, I think they're going to score. And that's why, like, I was watching OKC and the Warriors, and the OKC spent a lot of energy trying to come back in that game, right? So they tied it, and then the Warriors closed it out. The Warriors are home. They got a great crowd, good players. But I thought that game was like a moral victory for OKC because it reminded everybody, including the guys in the other team, that they have 2 of the best 4 players in the league.
Crazy.
And
people
if you
don't
have
even
a
talk
close
about
game, if you have a close game, they have 2 of the best 3 guys on the floor, and they're more well coached than they used to be. And that's a scary team. I don't want any part of that team in the playoffs.
Durant's arguably number 2 in the league right now.
Yeah. So what are your rankings?
They change every week.
But I agree with you. I think Durant's
I mean,
2.
Curry is number 1 for me. He's just there.
Is Kawhi in the top 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thing
Westbrook's
that switches
in
a
the
lot
top 4?
My thing that switches a lot is between Kawhi and KD.
Yeah.
And then whoever's 3rd, and Westbrook and LeBron 3rd and 4th, or 4th.
I think
and 5th.
KD has to be higher than Kawhi because I always look at this stuff.
I
like,
think so too.
If my life depended on it,
there's
I'm
just
in
a lot
pickup
more
game. Who would I want?
Yeah, there's just
I'd
a
pick
lot
KD.
more. There's just a lot more value to having Durant who can score on anyone versus someone like Kawhi whose max value is when he has to play against a player like KD.
Yeah.
Or LeBron, who but you can't. I mean, you couldn't really go wrong with either one of them, for sure.
That's definitely the top 4.
Yeah,
I think Davis
is
in another season would be there, but I just haven't liked his season.
I think a lot of it has to do with I don't blame him, but the reason why I don't
blame him a little, just a tiny bit.
Maybe
if your team is just out to lunch every game and you're the best player, that's a little bit's got to be on you. I don't care who your teammates are.
Sure.
It's part of your job. You're the best player. Get everyone going.
Yeah, he's not in the. He's like more of the potential to be in that than actually there right now. I don't think it's fair to anoint him in that category. He's not up there. He certainly hasn't accomplished as much as Durant has or Westbrook has in his career. So it's silly to even compare him in that sense.
I like Draymond and value Draymond slightly more than you do.
I value him a lot
because you think he's a top 10 player. You would never say he's like the 5th best player.
No, never.
Because I think a lot of what's happened with Curry. I mean, Curry's the best shooter of all time. He's Maravich. He's modern day Nash. All that stuff. Curry gives him a little extra.
I mean, Draymond gives him a little extra.
I'm sorry. Draymond gives Curry a little swagger, a little protection, the intensity night to night. I don't think Curry and Thompson when they came to the league were wired as night after
No,
night. I
that's
want to
true
rip your
for
hearts
sure.
out.
Yeah.
And Draymond gives that to those guys.
There's
Klay
also-
Thompson on another team could have been Rudy Gay.
There's also just the fact that you can't double him when he runs the screen with Draymond, because when you do, it's just a pass to Draymond, and now Draymond either goes in and gets a layup, like a straight path to the basket, or now you attack on Draymond. Now you have a wide open corner three for Harrison Barnes, Iguodala, or Klay Thompson. So I think without that, having not what other player can do that?
Well, but also what other player? I had Tibbs on like a week and a half ago, and he was just saying like I've done this before, but my whole thing about how Golden State's not replicable. Like all these teams are like, we got to be like, you can't. You have Draymond, Klay,
So it's silly that
and the
teams are
Klay
trying
Curry combos will never happen again in our lifetime. So
Yeah.
you're never gonna have the two of the greatest 5 shooters of all time on the same team.
Do you think Klay Thompson's one of the top 5 greatest shooters of all time?
Who would you have ahead of him?
I mean, I don't know. I never really thought about it, but
I'm just thinking. I guess more like
I think like
degree of
what you
difficulty shooters.
I think what you talked about with Draymond brings a little bit more out of Curry. I think you could say that, like, if you put Klay Thompson on the Lakers, for instance,
he'd be fine.
no, I don't think so.
I think he'd get stats.
You wouldn't be,
I don't think
you
he
wouldn't be
would
talking
affect
about
the
him as
team.
one of the top 5 great shooters
I
of
agree.
all time.
Like imagine Peja in the Klay Thompson role.
Yeah.
You know, he'd probably.
I like Klay Thompson. I think
I
he's
do
a
too.
fine player, but I just wouldn't. I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
He's
You might be
also a
right.
very good defender.
But like, okay, like Nash for sure is one of the. Nash is in the top 5 for
Well,
sure.
I guess what I'm
You
talking
mean just
about,
like a shooter, not also.
Yeah, I'm not talking about statistics. I'm just talking about shot making.
Okay.
Like Klay,
Not like
Klay has the
okay.
fastest release. He can shoot when he's moving. Kareem and Curry, they make shots that anybody else in the league, they're the most horrendous shots.
I mean,
anyone
I'm not
could
even
take.
thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, I would take Ray Allen over him, and I would take
Ray,
and I
definitely.
would take Reggie Miller over him. So there's 2.
See, I would put Klay over Reggie.
Oh, really?
I would, yeah.
I hate Reggie Miller's commentary. I don't know him as a person, but I would, and I think Reggie Miller was a better shooter.
Here's the case against Reggie. They had to run these crazy elaborate offenses with triple and quadruple screens just to get him open to get the shot. Klay just gets his shot
Yeah,
anywhere.
but
in
Clay's also
anything.
playing with Stephen Curry, who's just
True.
attracting so much attention that it's you never have to like think about when you watch a Golden State game, and like let's say you bet the other team, or let's say you bet the total under or something like that. That's the most. If you had your entire life on a bet and it was a Golden State under, you would have a heart attack every time Curry was on the court, because
Right.
it's just like, and no matter where he is, it's like it's 3 points right there.
Yeah.
And you can see it from the defensive perspective. You can see the defense just like panicking, like, oh fuck, we left Curry, like, oh my God. And it just creates this chain reaction of every other player having like no focus on them defensively.
And people started writing about this a few months ago, but I always compared it to in football when they're like what Randy Moss gave the Patriots and what Gronkowski does sometimes now for the Patriots, where the defenses were just so terrified of them at all times that, you know, Moss is in motion. You can see everybody in the defense, you know, they're freaking out, pointing to each other. And that's what Curry does the whole time. It's just this constant chaos.
It just makes it like nerve-wracking to play a basketball game against him, for sure. Because
Reggie
you just
Miller-
can't leave him ever.
The guys who really would have loved this era, Dale Ellis would have been unbelievable. If Dale Ellis was in a time machine and was in the Klay Thompson spot, would have been outrageous. The Reggie Miller, obviously. Who's the other one I was thinking? Who would have loved this? Oh, do you remember George McLeod?
Oh yeah, for the Nuggets for a while. Yeah, him.
George McLeod jacked the threes, man. He would have loved this. He's got to
would
be
have
so
loved
mad that he misses.
Yeah.
And Del Curry would have liked this too. But but now it's just the mentality of, it didn't really start happening until 10 years ago, where people on fast breaks now, the guys
to the
go
corners.
out and they go to the corners, or they go to the left side of the top of the key. But in the old days, they would just, I'm going to run my lane and I'll do a layup. And now it's out. And that's the thing where Reggie Miller and guys like that, they would have just loved this.
Yeah, they would have.
Yeah, Reggie Miller, you're right. He might have been a better shooter than Klay Thompson. I just seen them both. I've never seen a quicker release than Klay. Quickest release I've ever seen in person.
I think Ray Allen had a pretty quick release. I would put him. I'd have to like watch.
I'd
tape.
have to study YouTube's.
Yeah, I'd have to go watch some tape. But
I will
mean,
say with Ray Allen, I think he's, and maybe Curry, the only two people who could have made that shot he made in the finals.
someone should do a sports program on that day. It was the NFC. There was an NFC playoff game championship. There was the conference finals that day. It was the day Kobe shot and scored 81 or 82. Was it 81 or 82?
We talking about 06?
Yeah. The year
Yeah.
that Kobe got the shot, 82 points. 82 or 81.
It was conference champion. The Pats lost to the Colts.
Okay, but was it 82 or 81?
Oh, no. 81.
Okay, so then that night, the Suns, it's the Steve Nash Suns, played the Ray Allen Supersonics, and Ray Allen scored like 50 points, and it was the craziest game. It went to double or triple overtime. I can't remember which. Ray Allen hit like buzzer beaters at the end of like the quarters, like the overtime, the first overtime, regulation. And that was, to me, that's like, that day was like the best. That night of basketball was like, it was a Sunday night, so there wasn't any other games. I remember watching those two games and just like thinking, I love what I do for a living, being able to watch these guys. And that was, but anyways, that night, people remember that people are like of this generation. They kind of just remember the Ray Allen running around screens like you talked about.
Yeah.
But that was the tail end of his career. He was a primary scorer with Milwaukee and with Seattle. He still ran off a lot of screens and did a lot of different, but it wasn't just like a spot up in the corner like he was for the Celtics or for the Heat. He had the ball. He was the main scorer, and he was an amazing player. You
and I and 28,000 Milwaukee fans are the only ones who remember how
I got the tapes and I watched it, but my memory wasn't. I didn't.
You have the tapes?
I did.
I thought the tapes were destroyed.
No, someone.
The fishiest series in the history of the
what's
NBA.
Funny is after we did that podcast, they put it on Hardwood Classics.
What?
They put one of the games, the Game 7. Yeah, because I remember saying you won't see that one on.
That was the one where Scott Williams got shelved like an hour before the game?
I have the DVD of it. Someone from Europe sent it to me. And I
the
thought
Sixer fans are funny. They're like, hey, we shot more free throws than them all season. It's like, look, Iverson was going to the line like 20 times a game or whatever, 15,
but
20.
When I watched it, it wasn't as bad as I remembered it to be, which is kind of interesting how your mind can play tricks.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because it's hard to get free throws when you're just coming down and jacking up a 2-point shot.
Well, there was one game where...
But I only have Game 7 and Game 6. I don't have the other games.
The famous game was the one where the calls were so bad that I think it was Game 4. I'm not positive.
Was the one I remember being really bad.
But they were like down 7 with 2 seconds left, and the refs called a foul, and all the fans did this most sarcastic cheer of all time. Just they were so mad that now we get one. But Ray was amazing that year, and I love that 07 Sonics team. I think I might have lost money on the 07 Sonics in the playoffs. They lost to the Spurs, right?
They took the Spurs to 5, I think.
Richard, Brikowski, Ray Allen. I like that. The three-headed monster.
Yeah. They had
Jerome James ended up getting paid.
That was when the Spurs were really guarding the three-point line very heavily, and so they just had a steady diet of mid-range jumpers that were just going in every time.
You're making I made this case in my book, but Ray Allen was better than... I wrote the book in 09. I was like, Ray Allen was better than Reggie Miller now. And then he had this whole second life as a role player and a couple more Celtics teams and Miami teams.
Miami's still trying to sign them. Cleveland is still trying to get the guy to play.
I said this last year. It bothers me that he just won't play in the Warriors. He could be Uncle Splash.
Uncle
Splash. What's better? Just come in for 10 minutes a game and shoot some threes.
Wouldn't be bad.
How does he not want to do that?
Definitely be an upgrade over Barbosa and Brandon Rush.
Poor Brandon Rush. He gets a lot of chances. I want to talk about HBO Now really quickly. Every episode of every season of HBO's series plus the biggest and latest hit movies before any other streaming service. All available if you stream HBO. No TV package required. Coming to HBO Now this week. Oh, wait, it's already on Fast 7. So download the HBO Now app on your favorite device to start your 30-day free trial instantly. Fast 7. Are you fast?
No, but I'll probably watch Deadwood again. I like that.
Oh yeah,
because I think The Wire's great, all that stuff. Yeah, but and better than Deadwood. But I remember watching Deadwood and thinking, I want to watch this again.
Deadwood, a classic. I broke off the conversation with the Warriors after you said you thought they could go 74-8. There's another record at stake that to me was one of the unattainable records. My favorite team, the best team of all time, the 86 Celtics. 50-1 at home.
Oh, what was it?
One loss all year at home. 50-1.
This team I don't see them losing a home game.
So this Warriors team is now 23-0. And I think you get an extra first round game. So I think for them 51-1 or 52-1 could be conceivable if one of the series went, they lost a couple on the road and had to come back for a couple game 5s, play 3 around potentially. So they could get to 51-52-1 or 51-52-0, but I thought 50-1 was never happening again.
Yeah, they have to win every home game the rest of the way. They will have 41 regular seasons.
It's too hard. They'll have a stinker.
How would they even get there? They
What do
have
you mean?
41 regular season home games, right? So they go 41-0 during the regular season.
4 rounds?
4 rounds, but that's only 2. What is it? Oh yeah, 3.
Well, it's a minimum 8.
They'd have to
but you
lose some
probably
games.
get at least 10. Yeah,
Yeah.
But they're not going to run the slate. I mean, even
No.
the 2001 Lakers couldn't run the slate.
Right.
Although you
Almost.
made money on all of those.
Almost ran
You
the
were
slate.
a Ty Lue.
One
Allen
overtime
Iverson
game.
play.
One overtime game 1 away from running the slate.
I have.
That team was so dominant, it was ridiculous.
That's what the best teams of this century since the 96 Bulls, basically. In some order. 01 Lakers, I'd have first. This Warriors team, they have to finish it, but they would be second for me. And then I think the 08 Celtics have to be third, even though they sucked the first 2 rounds.
They sucked. They
stats backed
lost,
it up.
but yeah, they just didn't. Their playoff series was their playoff run was
It's the
underwhelming,
fly in the ointment.
and
The
they just
first
had
2
like
rounds.
no depth, and they were playing all these like Posey and playing Eddie House and playing like
But Doc, that was what we talked about earlier. Doc's playing 11 and 12 guys a game in the playoffs. And then he finally settled on the lineup we were all waiting for. When he would play Posey and House, it spread the floor for everybody. It was a little bit. He would play Posey at small ball 4 a couple times.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a prototype of where we were going.
that's happened a lot. That's happened more in history than people seem to.
Yeah.
I mean, even before him, you had like smaller,
Pippen would play the 4 sometimes.
yeah, it's happened a lot.
Yeah.
People now are just so fascinated with it because they think of like the stretch, the idea of the stretch. There was the guys who'd play the floor but weren't like the stretch 4 that they talked about.
Part of the reason is we didn't have as many good perimeter guys as we had now. Every roster was clogged by all these big guys.
And we didn't have Twitter,
where Twitter to just murder teams.
just talk about and just hear from people that you would never even knew a lot about basketball, but somehow they become like savants, and you just learn more that way. There wasn't that people were watching games. There was no replay. There was no YouTube.
Yeah.
So if you didn't catch the game live, you probably weren't going to see it again. Whereas now everything is consumed and reanalyzed, and all these things are talked about. People think that the game of basketball has been reinvented now, but really it's been that way in a lot of ways.
It's been we talked about 04 Pacers Pistons. That was the nadir.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, shit, is basketball just, I remember writing columns about it back then. Is basketball just going to suck now? We went to the Olympics that summer. We got our asses kicked by Argentina.
The Greek team
another
beat
team,
some
the Greek team.
with Baby Shaq.
Yeah, everyone's playing at this.
Soulful
We
Police.
were so stuck in this one-on-one residue of MJ, Kobe style of just clear out. I got it. And then Nash's Suns came along. And the tragedy of it, and I guess there were remnants of it with the White Chocolate Kings played that way a little bit, and then the Dirk Nash Mavs.
There were some rule
We
changes.
saw some of it. The rule changes
helped. Yeah, the no illegal defense.
Yeah.
The no 5-second back, because that the team that did it the worst was the Rudy Tomjanovich Rockets, where they had Mobley and Francis, and they would legitimately have 4 guys standing on the left-hand side of the court or the right-hand side of the court, all the way by the benches, and then you only had one guy was only allowed to guard the main play,
yeah.
and it would just be like clear out every game, and just like who would watch
It was
this?
horrible.
It was
Now,
terrible.
10 years from now, they'll say that about Hack-a-Shaq.
Probably.
Yeah, back in 2016, you could just foul people.
JJ Redick climbed on his back, bro. Gave him a piggyback.
They'd foul the inbounds passer just to get him on the
KJ
line.
McDaniels came off the bench in the second half and fouled 5 consecutive times in the first 10
Oh
seconds.
my God. I can't believe they haven't stopped it yet.
That's a good...
I can't go to Clipper games anymore. I just won't go. I've been to 2 all year.
But by the way, that's like a good analysis or just a good example of how basketball in a laboratory doesn't really work. The idea that JB Bickerstaff and management decided they wanted to be more aggressive with the hacking, and so they did it to Drummond at the start of the third quarter.
It was awful.
But what really happened was like the players hated it
Yeah.
because the crowd's booing, and I think that's something that you don't realize, that these are human beings. I mean, they realize it, but you didn't know how it would react. You didn't know there was an uncontrolled environment. Now you see how it react. Oh my God. It actually helped them. They went on like a 15-4 run while they were doing it.
Yeah.
But then they just became demoralized afterwards. Like you could see the players talked about it afterwards. I hated that. That was stupid. I didn't like doing that. And it's interesting because that's something where if they were robots, it would be like the perfect strategy.
Well, and that's part of the problem with sports. And I think Daryl found that out this year in Houston.
Possibly.
He made all of these moves that made sense in a computer.
Well,
but these are personalities that have to play together. And when you're building your team around Harden,
he got
and
to the
Howard
Western Conference Finals though, and
he did, but he went super knucklehead this year though. Last year he was like at capacity, and this year then now you're taking on. And
what was the
defended
knucklehead stuff this year though?
Well, the Ty Lawson trade,
that was the one for sure.
Adding that. And I thought it was a smart trade. It's like you got to roll the dice and do it. This guy was the best part of a 55-win team 2 years ago.
Yeah, I got into a fight with people on Twitter about like, there's no way you can. They're not starting him. I said, there's no way they're starting him. People are like, no, they're going to start Ty Lawson. And I was just, how could you start him? He doesn't mesh at all with Harden. Beverly's the perfect companion for perfect kind of partner.
I thought they were going to just play him 2 7-minute stretches a half until they figured out if he was an actual guy.
Yeah,
but
that team is it's a fun team to watch sometimes. Now they're just playing like helter skelter basketball. Now they play Corey Brewer, Ariza, Beverly, Harden, and then whichever big they have healthy. Either See, I like the team when they played both bigs at the same time. I like the Capella Howard Rockets because they were crashing, they were doing everything, they were controlling the glass,
and they were different.
Now it's just you watch the game and it's like I get nervous. I don't drink like energy drinks or anything. But or I drink a lot of coffee and I'll watch the game and I'll be like, oh, this is making me nervous watching this. I don't even have a bet on the game and I'm getting nervous. Why is Brewer so amped up? Just tell him to relax. Yeah. It's just it gives you bad energy when you watch the games. You're just too hyper.
And actually, Josh Spence was a good addition to that because he's helter-skelter too, and it fits with that whole team.
That was a great trade by Doc Rivers, the GM of the Houston Rockets.
I know.
Just giving away a player to a team in your conference for nothing.
Well, now at this point, they might as well just go full-scale crazy.
The Rockets?
Because they're past the point of no return. I would hire George Karl. When he gets fired, just bring him in. Bring him in to be the.
That's one guy I would not hire. I would take JB
to run this team. You don't want a crazy coach.
No, I would take JB Bickerstaff.
You like JB?
I just think George Karl is just.
I was kidding about George Karl. Yeah. George should not coach anymore.
It's
over for George.
Like he's on the bench knitting sweaters the entire game, just like literally knitting, watching the game being played and putting his glasses on to see what's going on every now and then, going back to knitting because he doesn't do anything. He just sits there and he's like, our best perimeter defender is Seth Curry and we're a terrible defensive team. Okay, well, if you really believe that, why don't you play your best perimeter defender and let him play a little bit?
Someone was telling me that, I can't remember who told me this, but Popovich, when it was either somebody who played for him or somebody who knew somebody who played for him, he showed up on San Antonio and they were basically, oh no, it wasn't somebody who told me. I read this. This was in a Wojnarowski piece. I knew I heard it somewhere. It was that David West thing about Wojnarowski thing about how he showed up. And they were like, they didn't even really have scouting reports for the other teams. And Pop was just like, we're just going to run our stuff. Just run our plays. I don't care who we're playing. As long as we do our thing, it'll be great.
That's interesting.
And I was like, wow, this is, I think George Karl tried this.
George Karl
but he's not Greg
level.
Popovich. Yeah, he's like, I don't care what other people are running. And his team's like, yeah, but we don't know what we're running either. This is a problem.
That team is... That's like where if you could have a revolution like they had in Egypt, which didn't really succeed.
It would have happened.
They should be able to do a basketball revolution where someone just takes over and eliminates the owner. And I don't mean I just mean gets them out of being the owner, because that team will never succeed as long as that guy owns the team.
But did you see like the minority owners are getting together?
They're gonna have a coup.
Yeah. Good luck actually doing that.
How? It's not a public company.
Leak it to reporters. Yeah. You can't
like have a hostile takeover of a team, force them to sell and float bad news. It doesn't work that way.
Do you know how many bad NBA owners there have been that nobody could get rid of? I mean, Sterling owned the team for 30 years. He used to sit next to him. He had a lot of great moments next to Sterling.
Not only did I sit next to Sterling, but I also rented a house in Malibu 2 years in a row, and I didn't notice. And I look over one day in my master bathroom. I look over and Donald Sterling's in his master bathroom. I'm on my deck and I look over to my next door neighbor, and it's Sterling lathering himself up with like calamine lotion.
God.
I was just like, what on earth? This guy lives here too. I just saw him a couple days ago. I can't avoid this guy.
Who do you think's the best owner?
There's lots of really good owners.
It seems like the
ones we don't talk about are the best
8 to
ones.
10, yeah. Peter Holt, those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, the Celtics have a really good infrastructure now. I like what they're doing.
Yeah. The ones who aren't trying to like micromanage the team. I mean, Cuban micromanages the team and he's a good owner, but he also has struggled to recapture that, that flash they had the year that they won. I mean, look, he had 2 finals runs. He should have won the year that that Bennett Salvador and Danny Crawford decided that Dwayne Wade was going to win the championship that year.
Yes.
And then this one. So he was a good owner for sure. But the best owners, I don't know.
It seems like there's 8 or 10 that know through. I don't think Gilbert's a good owner.
No. He's like
I think you could argue that if you had the LeBron falling into your lap in 2003.
The dude got the first draft pick like 4 years ago.
I know, but that's the thing.
Ridiculous.
Like, if you just given anyone else a scenario of you're going to have LeBron in 2003, he's going to leave in 2010, you're going to get 3 of the next 4 first picks in the draft, and then he's going to come back. At some point, you're winning the title with just about any scenario there. The fact that, and it's funny because New Orleans repeated this with Davis, you know?
That guy is not the best owner. Whoever the owner, Benson.
Well, they're horrible.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know who runs New Orleans. I'm not sure anybody knows who's actually calling the shots. But with Davis, you just want to build. They give away the 2 first-rounders for Drew Holiday. They pay Tyreek. They extend Eric Gordon. They give Ashik. Like, are you watching basketball? How do you give Ashik $55 million?
That signing was the worst.
The whole league is moving away from Ashik.
Yeah.
But I feel bad, and I actually think Davis made. I said this last summer. I thought he made a real mistake grabbing the money over waiting a year, because if I'm him, I kind of want to make sure I'm not going to be stuck for my entire 20s on like a terrible franchise, and that's might have happened.
I would say that it's very likely to have happened.
They have cap space. If you're a free agent, do you want
Who
to
would
go
go
sign
to that
there?
team?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, look, when you know you can lace them up and go play at the Smoothie King Arena, that's something that that's something that you got to really think hard about. I can go play at the Boston Garden, or I can go play at Smoothie King Center.
Right. We both think that there's a Durant Lakers possibility.
I think Durant's going somewhere other than OKC, but
next year or a year from now.
I don't know if he signs a 1-year deal. It's in his best interest to sign a 1-year deal, wait for Westbrook, and then make a move together. But
I was telling you that if the Lakers do something that seems fishy on the surface, like let's say they just trade D'Angelo Russell in a contract for Mike Conley.
Right.
And you're like, why would they do this? They're going to ruin their top 3 pick that, you know, they have to finish second basically to get that, to keep that pick. Like, why would you get Mike Conley? Why add him to this? That to me would be the red flag that they think Durant's coming. If they trade for somebody that helps them short term and threatens that pick, if they trade Russell or any of the Clarkson, one of these young guys, for somebody who's better than them, who will help them be better right now, that tells me that Durant's coming. So if they don't do that, then maybe he's not.
Yeah.
But we know that he lives here in the summer. We know that he likes Los Angeles.
Loves Los Angeles.
And I do think the underrated
part... everyone loved, but I said that, but everyone was like, nah, everyone, it's just the summer. So maybe it's just that.
Well, that's the thing. If you're an NBA player, you're on the road for 8 months. Like, you're just bouncing around. It does make it tough with the state tax here to actually want to live here year round, I think, for some of these guys. So maybe they win. But I don't know. I just think LA, for whatever reason, has an appeal to people. I mean, look, you're a transplant. Well, I think if you're like a famous tall celebrity like Kevin Durant, where you stand out everywhere you go, I would not want to live in a small city. I'd want to live here. This is the only city other than maybe New York. And even New York, I think it's harder to blend in. But here, nobody's going to bother you. There's a million celebrities here. Like Durant can. That's why all these guys live here in the summer and they train here and they play here, because people leave them alone. Trade deadline's coming up. We should talk about that quickly and then we'll go. Anybody you would target. So I guess the suspects would be Orlando, Sacramento, New Orleans.
What do you mean by suspects?
Well, just teams that are ready to do something. I think the Celtics are ready to do something the other way because they just have all these assets. You got Brook Lopez sitting there. You have Thad Young sitting there.
It's tough for Brook Lopez to get traded without a general manager.
Right.
They need to get a general manager first.
I mean, he's played every game this season and he's been really good. And he's single-handedly killing my Celtics pick that we have of theirs. I'm not sure I trade him. He's 20-8 every night.
They have like that team is just messed up because they can't do anything. They're not going to pivot. They've given away all their draft picks.
But that's the case of you just bottom out. You try to get first rounders for those 2 guys, clear all your cap space.
But they don't even have. Yeah, you need to get new first rounders.
Yeah.
Because they don't even have their own. But even if they got the new ones, I don't know that it's enough. It's just they're just a bad. I mean, the good thing they have going for them is they got an owner who will spend money.
I would have used the Joe Johnson contract to take risky contracts from other teams, like hit or miss. Like if Chicago was just saying, Derrick Rose, let's just get out of this.
No.
Well, I'm just saying if they did.
Yeah. They could dump Joe Johnson.
Or whoever. Or if Cleveland's like, Tristan Thompson, this isn't working. Will you take him and give us an... I think that I would use the Joe Johnson for that. I would not buy him out. I would try to buy out somebody else's panic move. Or Rudy Gay. The Kings were just like, we just get Rudy Gay out of here. We just want an expiring for him. That's... Yeah, I know.
I just kept quiet for that one. My face went white when you mentioned his name.
But the Nets, they have no incentive to tank at all.
No.
So
and they have no chance of getting better. So
better players. Even Rudy Gay is better than whoever they're trotting out. I don't know.
Rondé Hollis Jefferson.
Bargnani.
They played Bargnani and Bojan Bogdanovic together one game. It was an absolute disgrace. It really was a disgrace. No, I was just watching the game, watching these two guys play. It was just unbelievable.
I'm just going to quickly look through the standings. And Orlando, who would you try to steal from Orlando? Do you like Harris?
I mean, I would try to get Vooch. That's like the best player on the team, but they would never get rid of him.
You don't think so? They got to do something. They have all these...
If I was a playoff team that was trying to add a player, not like a young stud or anything, but just like a player that could add, I would try to get Fry. He's a player that could help. He could help Cleveland.
Boston?
He could help Boston. He could still shoot.
He could make that three in the top of the key. That's always open for us.
So that's a player I would try to poach from that team. I would also maybe like he's hurt now, but when he gets healthy, I would look at if I needed a backup point guard, I would look at CJ Watson because he was actually quite good earlier this year.
Anyone on the Bucks?
I mean, the Bucks.
Yeah, you just look sad. I didn't mean to make you sad.
They have
the team that can't shoot.
It's just they have Middleton and they have Giannis and then they have nothing.
So you're out on Jabari.
I'm out. I mean, I don't even know enough to know about Jabari. I don't think anyone does. It's his first real year playing, but like. When they went and they had a decent team. Then they added Michael Carter-Williams and Greg. They got Greg Monroe, who's just completely decimated their defense. They play a style that requires a super like attention to detail, and they don't have players. And then also the league kind of figured out that if you get dribble penetration against their defense, you have a wide open corner three if you make one pass, and you set like a back screen. So it's
So you didn't like the Greg Monroe signing?
No. And you know what the funny thing is? Everyone talk about what a great job Phil Jackson did. That was the guy he wanted.
Right.
He needed Greg Monroe.
Not to mention he was ready to trade the number 4 pick, and the trade fell through at the last second.
Was that what was going to happen?
Oh, yeah. The Celtics were moving up to 4.
Wow. So,
MJ screwed it up.
Be careful anointing someone a wizard for drafting Porzingis, because you could have had Greg Monroe instead.
The Celtics were ready to give up 4 first-round picks, including this year's Brooklyn pick, because they like Justice Winslow that much. Seems a little extravagant. I think so too. After watching Justice. I like Justice a lot. I thought he was going to be a potential multi-all-star. Not sure he can shoot.
Some of those guys just never develop jump shots, and some of them do. Like Bruce Bowen never had a jump shot.
How about Draymond?
Draymond. So it's possible. He's a definite athlete. He reminds me a little bit of Kawhi without the jump shot.
Kawhi developed a jump shot. He developed a 3. I would bet on Justice Winslow, but it's just to give.
There's another really, really good. The guy that the Pistons have is also very good. Stanley Johnson.
You like him?
I think he's good.
This is a great draft.
It really was.
I really like this draft. This is the year if you want to buy basketball cards for your kids. I would recommend this class because pretty much everybody, even Okafor, I think on the right team could be good. But you just go down like D'Angelo. I'm not willing to give up on him. Porzingis. I love Hazonia. I just want him to play.
Good. Yeah. Winslow.
Willie Cauley is actually, I think on the right team is really, if he's on a contender where he's the only one who can't shoot. He's a player
who can start on a team good. For sure.
The Stanley Johnson, Winslow. Kaminsky's not a bad ninth man.
Not
the league's kind of moved away from what he,
It's a good draft. All those guys are playing and contributing, which is pretty rare. We didn't
talk about 11, 12, 13. It was Miles Turner. Shocked by how good he is.
Even the guy Utah has is in
Trey Lyles, 12. Devin Booker, 13.
That
was your top 13.
Booker might be the steal of the draft.
And the Celtics were 16, right after the draft fell off. I like Bobby Portis, and I like Nance Jr. I think it's going to be okay.
I'm not a
They were
big Larry Nance
27th.
Jr.
It's 27th pick.
Yeah, for that it's great.
Yeah, he could be a ninth man. Anyone on Washington you would take? Would you want to rent Nene for 4 months? No. You made a face.
I mean, I don't know. He'd be all right, but he's not great. I would take I think if I had a choice, I would take Gortat. They would never get rid of Gortat. I would take Gortat.
How about on Phoenix? PJ Tucker? No.
That team's.
Markieff?
I would get. There's a lot of players on Phoenix I would take actually.
Like who? Tell us.
I mean, I just hate doing this because I feel like people steal my ideas. But I would take.
Who's going to steal your ideas? It's a podcast. 500,000 people are going to listen to this.
This is true. I would take John Lure, Mirza Telalovic. I would take Markieff Morris.
I like Mirza.
I like Mirza too.
I want the Celtics to get him. That dude makes threes.
He can
he's
score, and he can score in the post too.
Banger.
Yeah. He doesn't defend. He's a little
Why aren't they
suboptimal.
good? I like 9 of the players in that team, and they're terrible
because they don't have a point guard who can.
Because Brandon Knight was
and they don't have. And then Bledsoe
signing.
went down. They were good before Bledsoe went down. They could play, and they had Bledsoe, and they had that. Talk about completely messing your team up forever. They could have just taken the draft pick instead of Brandon Knight.
Instead of paying Brandon Knight $70 million.
Yeah, just take the draft pick.
But then they wouldn't have been able to sign the artist formerly known as Tyson Chandler for $52 million.
Then that move.
Which pissed off Markieff.
This owner, I'm going to tell you something with this owner. This guy goes on a rant about millennials.
Yeah.
Okay? He fires all of his assistants first.
Right.
Gets rid of all of his assistants. Then fires the head coach. Now he's got no assistant to be the interim coach.
Right.
So he hires a guy who's never coached, wasn't even an assistant. He was like third row on the back of the bench.
Yeah.
Got rid of Longobardi, whatever his name is.
He brought in Earl Watson, and Earl thought he was going to get fired. He brought
then they called
no, you're the coach.
Yeah, you're the coach. And then they get like Bob Hill, who I don't know, has he even been around basketball? What is he doing? Coaching like youth choir or something? They get this guy to be the assistant, the lead assistant, Bob Hill, who used to be a head coach. That's cool. But it's like
In 1995.
But like talk about unrealistic expectations. Like people who want it now generation going off on Markieff Morris. Buddy, you fired all your assistants, then fired the head coach.
I'm with you.
What is this guy smoking?
Would you trade Fareed, Gallinari?
That's another team that's
and
stacked.
A number one pick for Blake.
Oh, I already said that I would. If I was the Clippers, I would do that trade all the time.
What if the Clippers said, "I want Will Barton too"?
Well, that was the trade I said I wanted. I didn't realize
you didn't want that one.
Yeah, I would want all of those guys.
I want Will Barton. Denver.
Yeah. No, if I'm Denver, I wouldn't do the trade.
So you would do Will Barton, Gallinari,
if I was the
and
Clippers.
a pick for Blake.
Yeah. Why
but
wouldn't
Denver, you wouldn't trade Gallinari.
By the way,
Barton
if the Clippers did that, they would be a better team than they are with Blake. Not because Blake is a bad player, but because Doc doesn't know what he's doing with them anyway. So it's like when the general manager can make a trade to help the coach who doesn't know how to play his best player.
It's like he's two people.
He's the same guy.
I've seen enough of DeAndre, Blake, and Chris as my top three. They're never going to win the title, the three of them.
Dude, they have... Something. Think about this for a second. They have no backup point guard.
Okay? Oh, come on. Austin Rivers. He's listening.
Okay. And Pablo Prigioni.
He's 100 years old.
There's like a invisible shield in front of him, doesn't allow him to shoot ever. And then they have no backup center or backup four.
And it's a league where there's 80 point guards.
So they have...
You can find point guards anywhere.
Right. Jared Bayless, they could just find this guy somewhere.
They're all sitting around.
CJ Watson, maybe they could pick him to help Doc. Maybe he'll pick up CJ Watson for him. But think they're going to play a team that needs Luke Richard and Ba'amute to guard the team's best three, like let's say Oklahoma City.
He can't believe he's getting called
Listen to this for a second. So that's their best four.
Yeah.
That's their best backup four, Luke Richard.
Yeah.
But he has to play the three because their actual four, Paul Pierce, can't stay in front of any threes.
Right.
And so now he has to guard Ibaka. How is this team ever going to win anything? Like these people are so out. They're realistic. They have to make a trade because if they're not going to take Blake and make him a backup and play him first off the bench, which is what they should do because they can't play all of them together anyways, and they need to stagger their minutes. If they're not going to do that, then the GM has to help the coach out and get some depth because they need some depth.
But they're the same person.
I know, but I'm trying to he doesn't know he's the same person.
He's never been able to figure out how to get 5 guys who can win a game in the last 4 minutes. He has all these different guys, but they never have found the 5th guy. Even last year it was Barnes. It's like, I don't know.
He's
Barnes
also
for
got
4
Lawrence,
straight rounds.
He's also got Lawrence Frank running his defense, which isn't helping matters. No. Cole Aldrich, first backup center off the bench versus a team like Oklahoma City that crashes the boards and good luck with that.
Last question, then we'll go. You're running the Utah Jazz. I call you up and I offer the Brooklyn pick and David Lee's expiring contract.
Why do I have to take David Lee's expiring contract?
Because I have to make the salaries match for Gordon Hayward.
No, I don't do that.
You don't do that for Utah?
No. Brooklyn pick isn't guaranteed to be like a terrific pick.
What else do I have to throw in? Can I throw in the Dallas pick that's going to be like number 18?
I mean, I don't know. I just think that I like, first of all, I like Gordon Hayward. I think he's a very good player.
That's why I'm trying to make an offer for
Yeah,
him.
you got to give, I don't know. I don't think you have the stuff to make it happen. I don't know. I don't know how that would.
So you wouldn't trade Gordon Hayward?
No. I mean, I would trade him for some players, but I wouldn't trade him for a draft pick, even if that draft pick was guaranteed. I mean, if your draft pick was guaranteed to be number 1 or number 2, after the draft order's already been established and you want to make a trade for...
It's unprotected.
I get it. But it's still a gamble. And I don't know that now if that pick ends up being like 5 or 6, now you've just traded Gordon Hayward for a 5 or 6 pick.
I tried to neg his value on Twitter last week. Everyone caught on.
Yeah.
I know. Twitter's too smart now.
It really is. Twitter's at the same time too smart and too annoying. It's like a very...
Oh, it's the worst place on earth.
It's like a
You love
girlfriend
it,
who
though.
knows...
You thrive on it.
It's like a girlfriend who knows she's better than you and she's still with you and she makes you makes you feel the pain all the time.
So I'm not getting Gordon Hayward.
No.
Okay.
Maybe.
It's my dream. I think he's the one. I don't think we can get Boogie. I think the Kings minority owners will throw their body in front of a Boogie trade somehow.
They might be able to get Boogie. I don't know. That team is.
Would you want Boogie? Do I want Boogie? I do.
I don't
right?
think you'd want to mess with the cool flow that the team has.
I can get one
like,
guy though, right? One.
It just feels like they have such a good. I don't know. Maybe it would work. He didn't like Isaiah Thomas before. He doesn't like him now.
No, that's not true. They like each other. He's not in shape. Is my fear with him. I watched these games. Barkley said it when he was on the pod 2 weeks ago, and I agreed. I don't feel like
Barkley was calling someone out of shape.
I know. When Barkley knows.
Talk about the kettle.
He knows, though. That's
right.
The thing.
You can spot it.
Thanks to Slender Tone for sponsoring today's podcast. If you want firmer, stronger abs, try Slender Tone's smart fitness device that tones and tightens your abs. Using clinically proven EMS technology, you'll get firmer, more toned abs in less than 6 weeks. Maybe 6 weeks. Go to slendertone.com, offer code BS for 20% off at checkout. It's great. I highly recommend it. Thanks to stamps.com for allowing me to break up with the post office. I buy and print my own U.S. postage using my own computer and printer. You can too. Get a 4-week trial plus a $110 bonus offer. Includes postage and a digital scale. Go to stamps.com. Click on the microphone at the top, type in BS. Thanks to HBO Now. Download the HBO Now app. Start your free 1-month trial today. Thanks to SeatGeek, the presenting sponsor of the Bill Simmons podcast on Channel 33. And thanks to my man, Bob Voulgaris. That was fun.
Yeah, for sure.
We hit everything, right? I feel like we did.
I think so, too.
All right. So tomorrow night, like 12 games, 13 games?
Flying out tomorrow night.
Are you flying out? You're missing the Wednesdays.
13-hour flight out of here.
All right.
Just here for a day. But yeah, it'll be fun.
All right. Great to see you. Great to do this in person. Talk to you soon.
We about this bitch. Anytime y'all want to see me again, rewind this track right here, close your eyes, and picture me rolling.